Hey guys, how's it going? Hello, hello. Welcome to Nature Journaling with me, Rachel Roth. Hello, nice to see everybody. I am going to be going until about noon. We have a video scheduled to go up with Emily Davis. She's going to be talking about frogs and toads, which will be really exciting at noon. But for those of you who are interested in joining me, we're going to do some nature journaling today, because what better activity to get close with nature than to, take some time to sit down, and even if you can't get outside, we're going to bring nature to you, and you can learn to engage with nature in a little bit of a new way. So yeah, again, we're going to go under an hour on this. And this is kind of an interactive activity. So please grab a piece of paper. Any paper will do. I've got a sketchbook here that I kind of do whatever random nature journaling I want to in. And I'm just going to use a ballpoint pen, because I kind of like using pens where I am forced to kind of focus on what I'm putting down on the paper and be a little bit more cognizant of it. And then I'm not focusing on everything being absolutely perfect and erasing my pencil marks and stuff, which can be a bit of a problem for your journaling, because it can kind of get in the way of you making observations and focusing on the plant or the animal that you're looking at. So today we're going to look at poison ivy, if you couldn't guess by the title of this video. And I have a specimen of poison ivy here. I thought it would be kind of a good thing to look at, because, I've seen some jokes about people having to use leaves with all the toilet paper being gone. So what better time to learn about what poison ivy looks like than now? But also I have this really nice specimen of poison ivy that's preserved that I don't have to touch, and then none of us have to actually go out in nature and deal with poison ivy in order to learn about it. So yay. So we're gonna, I think today, work on making an infographic, which I think will be kind of fun. Basically the idea of this activity is to take something in nature and try to learn as much about it by filling in an entire page of your journal. And what's kind of cool about this display that I've already got here is that you can kind of already... Ooh, let me turn down my volume here. Sorry, I'm trying to keep tabs on the comments and stuff just in case, and I had to turn my volume down. So we've got different pieces of the plant here that we can look at that'll help us to fill out our infographic. The first and most important thing is looking at the leaves. But with poison ivy, keep in mind, every single part of this plant is actually going to give you that allergic reaction with the oils. So I think it's really important for us to actually study the entire part of the plant. And right now, if you're out enjoying the park and you encounter these vines, by the way, poison ivy is a vine, be very, very careful. You can get the rash just from these vines. I know a lot of people who have personal stories of taking vines down off the building and getting horrible poison ivy reactions hours later. This also has the flowers, which are kind of hard to see, and the berries. And I'll say, it might be kind of hard for you to see these images from my video. So feel free to pull up images of your own in a web browser to use while we journal this together, because I think that'll be really helpful for you to kind of get up close, and this is the most appropriate way to get close to poison ivy. So anyway, we're going to get started by again, we're making an infographic, so I want to fill this page with as much information as possible. And that's the whole point of nature journaling, right? Is to document, observe, make different types of observations. And if anybody here is thinking hey, I can't sketch, I can't draw, that is a phrase that we do not use in nature journaling, because here's the thing, drawing is a skill like anything else. And it used to be, if you were interested in being a biologist, you had to study art, because being able to describe things in nature using art was just a part of what you had to do. This was before cameras. Think of famous naturalists like Charles Darwin even using sketchbooks as a way to document their encounters with nature. So I'm going to start by sketching out the general poison ivy leaf. And some people like John Moore Laws, who teaches a lot of nature journaling classes, will recommend starting off with like basic shapes. This is called kind of making a gesture of the form. So now that we've got this down here, we want to start making some observations and think in your mind while you're doing the exercise of drawing this out. Like, what are the things that you're noticing about this plant? So number one, this is a leaf right here, right? So that means, see this little tip right here? I don't know if you can see on this leaf, but that's actually the end of the leaf. So that means this entire thing we're looking at is one single leaf. That makes this, I'm going to make a note here off the side, a compound leaf. And this is just something I want to put in my journal, but as you're journaling poison ivy or taking this later on, you add whatever observations you want to your journal. So I'm going to teach you guys a little botany word. This is a petiole, boop, 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 which is important for us to notice on this one because that means this leaf that we're looking at, sorry, I'm getting kind of close to the mic, is a compound leaf. So that makes it, let me see if I can find an example. I've got a stack of leaves over here. Okay. That makes it a little bit different from something like this, where you can see the tip of this leaf, that petiole where it attaches to the stem. That makes this one leaf, whereas poison ivy has leaflets. So whenever people are saying leaves of 3, which I'm going to write in my journal, leave it be, that's kind of a misnomer, I guess. Really what they should be saying is leaflets of 3, because these little tiny leaves, as we're noticing, they don't have that sort of petiole attaching them to the leaf. Those are leaflets. So they're just a part of this compound leaf. And that's an important part of identifying poison ivy. So when you are seeing a poison ivy plant outside, you're always going to see these groups of 3 together coming off of the stem because this whole thing is the leaf. Cool. So as we're filling out more details and making more observations about this plant and the leaves of this plant, let's see. Here is a little pin oak leaf again. Oh, you're welcome, Becca. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. Let's see. One other thing to start noticing is the shapes around it. Now, this is something kind of cool that I like to practice called using negative space when you're looking at trying to draw. Anything that can kind of take your brain out of the I have to copy the picture exactly mentality kind of helps you to notice shapes a little bit better. So what I mean by that is instead of looking at the shape of the leaf itself, I want to look at the shapes around the leaf to try and fill out what the details are. So for example, I'm going to look like in between these leaflets and I notice that there's like a little angle right here. And I notice that this little space in between the stem, the central like little midrib here, is pretty narrow and it goes up along like this. So I'm going to fill in that negative space to try and get a feel for this plant. Cool. And as we come up here, I'm going to notice, boo, 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 boo. Same thing kind of goes up like this on this leaf. So hopefully you guys can see this. This is kind of my first time attempting to live stream nature journaling in this way. I should probably pull up my screen here so I can see what you guys are having to look at. Okay. Oh, hopefully I can get the camera to stay focused on the leaves and on my hand. And again, I'm just using a ballpoint pen because I like being committed to my lines and not trying to make it perfect. I'm just trying to make observations, right? And another thing that might help us, people like to make lines through the drawing to kind of help form the shapes again. So if you look on this leaf here, you can see that big central vein going through the leaf. That can kind of give us the shape of where the tip is supposed to go. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in too. And I'll notice on this leaf, it kind of curves up like this. Boop, 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 boop. Easy. And this just kind of keeps going. And you can see like it doesn't really ever change going into that leaflet. And same thing over here. We're going to go up like this. Boop, boop. Easy. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill in this like negative space on the other side of the leaflets, where it almost makes like this kind of, I don't know, triangle shape. You see that? So that hopefully will help us to observe the relationship between these leaflets and how close they are together. Oh, that's a good idea, Richard. I'll try switching the autofocus off. Give me 1 minute, guys, while I do this, and then I'll have that setting for next time. Sorry, I'm kind of trying to keep track of comments while we journal together, so I apologize for the delay. Oh, shoot. Give me my properties, please. Cool. So again, while I'm kind of working on my settings here and configuring the video, one thing that's kind of nice about this journaling is that we're going to look at poison ivy here together, but I hope that after our session is finished, you can maybe go out into your yard and maybe you don't have any fresh leaves yet, but there's probably dead leaves around or something else, or you can pull up leaves that you want to learn on your computer, and you can use these same skills to kind of make observations that compare and contrast different types of leaves. Where on earth is my... Oh, there we go. Turn off autofocus. Yay. Okay. So hopefully that's focused. Oh, well, it'll be good enough. So it's not going to autofocus. If the journal itself is a bit out of focus, I apologize, but we're going to do our best here today. Oh, that is pretty bad, isn't it? Let me see if I can try that one more time. I'm sorry, guys. Bear with me. Y'all are so patient. Gives those of you joining later a chance to catch up on some of these observations. Boo, 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 boo. Okay, let's try changing the focus manually. Well, that's terrible. Oh, gosh. Okay, well. You know, it'll be fine. It's just going to be blurry. Okay, cool. So, going back to our leaflets, we're going to focus on getting the shapes of the rest of these leaflets down. And I'm noticing, as I'm trying to tackle this, that on these leaves, there's a lot more space on this side of the mid vein than there is on this side. So I'm going to try and do that in my drawing here. And also where it attaches to the stem, it like kind of does a little like swoop. So I'm going to try to do that too. Boop, boop, boop. And I'm going to kind of generally just get the shape of this in. And I hope that you guys are noticing the same things I am with the way that this edge is really jagged. So this is called a margin of a leaf. Go figure, the outside edge. Botanists are very creative with their naming. So, we're going to call the margin of this leaf, and I'm writing this down again because remember, nature journaling is about documenting your observations. It's serrated. So it's kind of like the edge of a knife, where you might have serrations like for a bread knife or something. And that's a really important thing to observe about poison ivy in particular, because that's how you identify poison ivy and separate it from other plants. Nice. So we've got those little margins, and I'm also kind of noticing, it might be hard for you guys to see, but like the tip of these serrations is kind of where some other secondary veins are coming out, and they kind of go down like a comb down the leaf. So we're also going to go ahead and put that in there lightly with my pen because I don't like commitment. So that's approximately what it looks like. And that's a leaflet of poison ivy. Now, I'm looking at this and thinking, wow, I didn't really capture that this side was bigger than the other. So I might just go ahead and write that down under here, just in case it matters. Maybe it doesn't, but it's good to make observations and to write them down when you do. So that's great. I'm also noticing I didn't get this petiole quite as long, but that's okay. I got the idea down. Now I do want to kind of compare that to another leaf that I've got here. This is a leaf called aromatic sumac. And as you can see, it definitely has some similarities with our poison ivy, but it has a lot of really important differences too. So what I'm going to do is continue kind of sketching out the margins of our poison ivy leaflets. And while I do that, I hope you guys are following along and doing the same thing, but maybe if you have some observations about the difference between this aromatic sumac and the poison ivy, go ahead and share that in the comments, and we'll see what different observations you make. I will be doing the same thing a little bit later on, but I kind of want to hear the things that you guys are observing, because it's always interesting to see how different people see things and the different stuff that you might notice that's different from what I do. Cool. So that's one. And I'm going to do the next one as well. This one doesn't have as many little jagged edges, does it? No, it really doesn't. I feel the urge to go a little Bob Ross on you guys and be like, all right, some happy little veins on our happy little poison ivy. And now I'm noticing, as I look more closely, you know, this leaflet doesn't have any of those serrations on the edges, so these veins really don't correspond, but I'm going to sketch them in like that. Some of them do, but heck, some of them don't. So, there we go. What do you think, guys? What are some, yeah, okay, so Becca says they have much more rounded edges. Yeah, exactly. So, gosh, I don't remember the botanical term for this, but I would totally say that these are more like scalloped, you know? Like, so the edges on, let's make a little mini sumac over here. I'm just going to give him 3 little bloop, bloop, bloop leaves. And I will mention while we're looking at this that aromatic sumac and poison ivy both occur out in the park with some regularity, so you will encounter both of these things out there, and that's why it's important to know the difference. So yeah, they've got these like really almost like scalloped edges, I guess. Like they are super, super rounded off, whereas these guys have these nice jagged edges. That's cool. Ooh, and you know what? This leaf actually does show it off kind of well. I didn't really capture it in my drawing, but some people will describe poison ivy as being like mittens, like this. And then the top one is like a mitten with 2 thumbs. So that's a pattern that you'll often see in poison ivy with this kind of jagged edge. So maybe I'll make my little thumbs here a bit bigger. And I use a ballpoint pen to constrain myself, which means can't erase it, but that's okay. So yeah, it's like a mitten shape sometimes. And then here's the mitten with 2 thumbs. It's fun adding little side drawings to help elaborate on your observations. Cool, so those are mittens. Anything else that you guys are noticing? Oh yeah, Richard says that there's more symmetry. Oh yeah, you're totally right. I didn't even notice that, but you're right. Hey Erica, we're nature journaling. You want to join?
Nature journaling?
Yeah, we're live streaming. Erica just came in. Here, stick your hand in and wave at people.
Hello.
Are you here to do animal care?
Yes.
Nice. Hey, stay 6 feet away from me, please.
You're the one who just told me to wave to the camera.
You're right. Hey, nice to see you.
Hey, look, that's good.
Yeah, so Richard said there's more symmetry. I love that. We're going to add symmetrical to our list of differences. Here, I'm going to write sumac up here. We'll write aromatic sumac. Now, you guys can't smell this leaf. I'm a little off the screen here. Whoops. But if you were to, like, crush this leaf up and give it a sniff, it definitely has an odor to it. But obviously, if you're trying to figure out if it's poison ivy, please don't pick it up and, like, manhandle it, because that's how you get poison ivy reactions. One thing I'll add to Richard's observation about the symmetry is that the way it connects is pretty different. Now, honestly, the scalloped edges, I think, is good enough, because that already is a huge difference from our poison ivy with these kind of rounded margins. But look, it kind of makes like, it dips in almost. I don't know how to describe that, but it kind of makes one of these shapes. So that's, I guess, looking at the negative shapes, like that's really different, whereas the poison ivy kind of made these little triangles with the shapes because of that like sharp connection point. These guys have these real like, I don't know, almost moon-shaped connections because they're just so squishy. Anyway, squishy was not the right word. It just came out of my mouth. Sorry. So, yeah, there we go. That's our aromatic sumac compared to the poison ivy. And we'll just sketch in some quick little veins to show that it's a leaf so that when we are looking back at our journal in the future, we'll be like, what is that? Oh, it's a leaf. Yeah. I always like to think of my journal entries as being like for my future self when I'm flipping through my journal, because it's not really for anybody else to look at, it's just for you to make some observations. And that's another reason why making little notes is so important, because sometimes your little sketches make sense to you at the time, but future Rachel could look at this and be like, what on earth is happening? Okay, so there's our aromatic sumac leaf. Cool. So the things they have in common, I would say, obviously the 3 leaflets, leaves of 3. And you know what? It also turns red in the fall. So this poison ivy over here is more of a fresh one that's green, but it also turns red in the fall, so that can be a little bit confusing. And really, I don't know of any different leaves out there that are this similar to poison ivy. So if you can just look for those round shapes versus the kind of jagged, pointy shapes, you're set. You've got your poison ivy down. Cool. So that's our leaf. I'm feeling pretty happy with our leaf sketches, and I hope you guys are too. Let's see. I think what would be cool to look at next, and I'm just now realizing I never actually labeled this page as being for poison ivy, so I'm going to do that now. Better to do it after the fact than ahead of time. Some people are really, like, I don't know, precise about how they do their journal entries, and they'll, like, make really cool, like, calligraphy text. You can do that if you want. I'm just here to demonstrate today, and we're just having a good time. So here's our poison ivy. Boom. And sometimes I like to put a date on there too, so I remember, what day is it? Is it the 24th? I don't know. Time is weird when you're in isolation. We're just gonna pretend like it's the 24th, and I think that's right. Quarantine week 2. Just kidding. Technically we're working from home right now at the nature center. I don't know about you guys. I also have some friends who are being furloughed right now, so I'm feeling pretty fortunate to be able to work during this time. Week 2. Cool. So there's our label. We'll keep that up here. Box it off so it looks separated. All right, cool. Let's look at some other parts of the poison ivy, because remember our goal is to make an infographic, and what's kind of fun is that means once we're finished kind of sketching out these different shapes and visual features, whatever space you have left in your journal you can use for like doing some research, and you can think of it as like making a little page in a field guide almost. And sometimes your field guides will have similar species. So I know you can't see what I'm writing now, but I'm gonna, if I could write and spell correctly, similar species. Becca, yes, I'm planning right now to do this on Tuesdays and Thursdays and probably Saturday mornings too, but at least 3 times a week from now on while our building is closed. I'm going to try to do it at 10 in the morning. This morning I had some technical difficulties, so it took me a long time to get set up, but my plan is to do it then. I'll probably post some like advertising graphics once I get my schedule for sure worked out. This was the first time I'm doing it, so I didn't want to like promise it, and then, like this morning I was not on schedule because I had to figure out how to do it. But yeah, from now on we'll try to do that. And I will, let's see, we have a Nature Journal Club for the Nature Center too, so it's a Facebook group, and we're not meeting in person obviously right now, but if you guys want to join that Facebook group, and I should have shared this to our Facebook group. That's okay. But we'll try to do a little bit more work on keeping in touch through that Facebook group too, and sharing the journal entries that we do. So if you guys are journaling around this, oh gosh. If you're wondering what that horrible sound is behind me, it is our alligator snapping turtle. Here, I wonder if I can find a way to show you guys. This is terrible. Can I do this? Yeah. She's currently moving her filter around, and it's sucking up water horribly. I'm in the classroom at the Nature Center. Gosh. Rude turtles. Hey, Erica, what's up?
Hello.
Alright, here we go. I think it's just us. Lori was here earlier, and Nicole was in earlier, but they're gone as far as I know.
Okay.
I did turn on the habitat hall and stuff.
Yeah, I saw.
And I turned the aquarium light on so the fish would have light. Okay, cool.
Okay.
And Nicole got the gray screech owl out earlier. Got her some enrichment and stuff.
Aw.
I know. It was great.
Did she take
into the habitat hall. She got a really cute video. She'll post. Oh shoot, we'll post it later. But she was just like actively looking at all the grasses in the habitat hall and stuff. It was real cute. Okay, guys. Back to our journaling. Let's look at this stem. So I'm gonna. Well, I've got a big old tripod here in the way, but I'll try to do this over here. Again, the poison ivy plant is a vine, which I think is something a lot of people don't really realize. Maybe part of that, I need to move my mic closer probably. Part of that might be that, I don't know, when we see poison ivy, sometimes it's like growing on a tree. And so I don't know. It's sometimes growing quite small. Sometimes it's coming off the tree almost like a tree branch. And because of that, here, I'm going to make sure that we write down vine up here. Because of that, I'm going to like do a real crude tree right here. If you have like a regular tree, boom, 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 regular tree, it's really important before you start messing with the tree to look up first and see what the actual leaves on the tree are. For example, here in the park, we have a nice like stand of black locust trees, which actually I might have a leaf from that. Hang on. Oh, I'm sorry, Deb, I'm messing up your leaf organization over here. Well, I don't know where it went. I'll sketch it. They kind of have these big round compound leaves where the leaflets are kind of circular like this. Boo, 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 boo. It's a terrible miniature drawing of, so that's a locust leaf, for example. So if you look up and you see what the like general texture, pattern, shape of the tree leaves are, and then you notice that this branch that's close to you has these poison ivy leaves, it might look like a tree branch. And honestly, some of the poison ivy branches in our park are thick enough that they look like they're a part of the tree. And so you've got to be really, really careful. And here in Kansas, poison ivy tends to grow in the woodlands, which, hey, is another good thing to add to our infographic. So we'll just write here, poison ivy loves woodlands, especially woodland edges. So anytime I'm looking at a tree and I'm not really sure what kind of tree I'm looking at, I always double check that I'm not actually looking at a poison ivy vine. And speaking of which, that does make it kind of hard. I will say over here in our similar species, I will go ahead and add box elder to our similar species. I'm not going to sketch that one today, but I would encourage you guys, as you're filling out your journal page, maybe this is a good space to add that other similar species. Now that is a tree, whereas aromatic sumac is a bush or a shrub. So these can be a little bit confusing, and when in doubt, just don't touch it. But often if you see this like poison ivy vine, once you pay attention, you'll notice, oh heck, there's a poison ivy vine going up this entire tree. And it's really fun in winter when you find poison ivy growing up the trunk of a tree, or not winter, I guess fall, because the poison ivy will turn red, and a tree like our cottonwoods in the park, they always turn yellow. And so it can be a really stark contrast when you look at these fall trees and you see yellow leaves on the top and then like all these red leaves kind of snaking their way through. That's the poison ivy coming through it. So anyway, looking at the vine, there's actually some really good tells that you're looking at a poison ivy vine, and I'm just gonna, I don't know, fill this in because I like to do that, to separate it out and make it look more like a solid function. You guys do your journals however you want. So when we're looking at the poison ivy vine, let me get my hand off of it so you guys can look at it. What are some things that you're noticing about this hunk of vine? Oh yeah, totally. I don't know where the perch went. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, go for it. We're going to have a friend join us here in a second, folks. Our American kestrel is horrible and attacks people, so Erica's taking him out of the cage and leaving him with us to babysit for a minute. Thanks. Appreciate that. Cool. So, fuzzy. Thanks, Erica. Yeah. Thanks, Anna. It is really, really fuzzy, and these little, like, kind of filament things coming off of it, those are, I don't know, I usually describe them as being like roots almost, because that's kind of what's anchoring this plant to the tree. So let's make a note of that and say, I like fuzzy. That's a good term. Often when I'm not sure what to write in my journal, some of the things that you can keep in mind as prompts are, what does it remind me of? What do I notice? And what's the last one? What do I wonder about it? It's fun to write questions in your journal for your future self. So I'm going to kind of, I need to get my hand off of that. Sorry, guys. I'm going to try and draw all these like little filamentous roots coming off of it. And again, this is something that makes the poison ivy vine a little bit different. There's maybe, I think, Virginia creepers that will also do that, here in Kansas at least, with these kind of filamentous roots that attach it to the tree. And I keep calling them roots. I don't know if that's really technically what those structures are. I don't know that that's the correct way to describe them. I'm just kind of using that as an analogy, I guess. But if it is, I mean, if anybody knows the botanical answer to that question, that's, you know what? I just said I like writing questions in my journal, so we're going to write that question. What is this for? Obviously, it anchors the plant, but I'm going to write down just anchors or nutrient uptake. Because maybe there is some kind of, like, I don't know, nutrient uptake happening. Maybe it's sapping some stuff out of the tree. I honestly have no idea. So that'll be a fun thing to look up later on. And as my page is starting to get kind of full and concentrated, I'm probably going to go through and start adding some divisions to help myself, like, see what's happening here. So, like, all this stuff right here kind of goes together. So I'm just going to separate that out. So maybe these leaves right here go to the tree. That's an arrow, and I'm just going to keep making this darker so I can see what I'm doing. And you know what? Journal pages can be messy. That's part of the fun, right? So yeah, here's our tree. And it is a vine, so again, I'm going to make this a little darker. I've actually got a different pen here that I could be using, and if I wasn't trying to do like a demo sort of thing right now, I would probably be using multiple colors, because I think that's a really fun way to like see what I'm looking at in a page. I like organizing by color coding and stuff like that. It's kind of fun. Cool. So, fuzzy vine. And then I'm going to put this maybe as like a little thought bubble. Boop, 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 boop. And draw a little arrow. Arrows kind of help me keep organized. Yay! I love messy pages. That's fun. Okay, so this is our vine, and I will kind of sketch out over here to the side something that makes it a little bit different from some other vines. So, like, let's say this is a grapevine, which are also quite common here in Kansas. We have multiple species of grapevine that occur out in the park, around town, throughout the state. And you probably will notice on these that instead of having those, like, root-like filaments, they'll have these kind of curly-Q, swirly tendrils, and they will connect to the tree with these curly-Qs instead of roots. So even when there's no leaves on the tree, you can notice differences like these when there's no leaves on the tree or the vine, when there's no leaves out, period. This can help you separate out what might be poison ivy from what's just a grapevine that would be totally safe to touch and tear down off your house or whatever. So I'm going to write grape and tendrils over here. Cool. So that's our poison ivy vine. Awesome. I think one last thing I want to put in my journal page before we have to get out of here so that Emily can do her frog stuff is the berries. And this isn't like the best example. I'm going to scoot my journal over a bit here, I think. Boo, boo, boo. But these berries have some qualities to them that separate them out from other plants. The first thing is that there are these clusters. So let's make a little section over here maybe for berries. And I'm going to make a little vine right here. Boop, there's my berry. And this cluster, it's almost clustered like grapes. That's another little journaling prompt. Like, what does it remind you of? It reminds me of grapes. So we're going to write like a grape cluster. And that means there's kind of like this like central stalk, I guess. And then it kind of branches out from there, I'm noticing. And there are these big old circular white berries. And because right now I'm using just a ballpoint pen and I have no intention to go back and color this, which obviously you guys could do if you wanted to, that'd be awesome. But what I'm just going to do is write that they are white next to it so that I remember in the future what color these were. And it's this big cluster of white berries. Now, my little graphic over here helpfully says that these berries are present in September and October. If you were out journaling in the field at that time, or if you were doing your infographic and doing some research on this plant to add to your page, that would be a great tidbit to add to that, because there are other plants with white berries out there, but most of them really aren't out in the fall. So these are present in fall. And just for fun, I'm gonna give you all a little tidbit about these poison ivy berries that I think is pretty dope, which is that it's a great place to look for birds. So we're gonna draw just like a very crude little bird here. Boop, boop. He's having a good time. Very crude bird. Oh gosh, it's fine. This is for us, not for anybody else to see. I just have the misfortune of live streaming my journal, so you guys all have to see my ugly little bird. And that's okay, because remember, we're journaling, and it's for us, and we don't get to say things like, hey, I can't draw, or this drawing sucks, because it's your drawing. You're communicating what you want to communicate. So I'm going to say this little guy loves berries. Loves to eat berries. Maybe give him a little, sorry, this stream is devolving. Yeah, I'll give him a little like berry in his mouth. Boop. He loves berries. And we're going to say that you can't see because it's so blurry, but that's supposed to be a bird with a little berry in its mouth. So in the fall, go bird watching on these berries. You cannot eat them because, thank you, Anna, it is quite a beautiful bird. Now let's see, bird watching. And maybe just for fun, I'll draw some like little binoculars next to it so that I know what I mean. But seriously, this is a great place to go bird watching. And we'll give him a little, like, speech bubble. Because birds will gather on these berries, and humans are the only ones that really have a problem with poison ivy. So for birds, it's just a great source of food. And you can find all kinds of fun little birds like yellow-rumped warblers congregating at these poison ivy vines, munching on berries. So that's pretty fun. Cool. Well, I think those are all the observations I wanted to get on my page for sure. Boop, 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 boop. Maybe we'll take a look at our finished, quote unquote, finished page. And yeah, see what it looks like. So let's see. We've got general poison ivy. I'm going to give this a nice little bubble to make it stand out because that is an important piece of information. Cool. So it's a compound leaf. This is a nice little silhouette. I'm going to make sure I get all of my things labeled so that I know what I'm looking at next time I look at this page. So this is a silhouette of mittens. We've got some similar species down here in the corner with our box elder. And I will separate these out a little bit. And then this extra space in here would be a great place later on, and, you know, say you're out in the backyard doing some sketches. Then when you go back inside, grab a field guide or get online and go to kansaswildflower.org or something and find some more interesting information that you think could enhance your page. Maybe information about how the leaf would feel, and obviously with poison ivy, we don't want to feel it. But, you know, this one has an odor to it, so we'll put it has a smell on our aromatic sumac. Maybe you would want to go sketch a box elder. Maybe a nice like little landscape of, you know, I attempted to draw a tree up here with poison ivy. Maybe you could make an even bigger version of what that might look like using some resources you find online, and just filling in lots of words to make this a more completely filled page. And of course you can go back and add colors. Since I used a ballpoint pen, colored pencil would be really fun, or crayons or something. I know some people who like to use watercolor in their journals, so if you've got the right paper for that, yeah, go for that. That's a great way to add just little splashes of color that can help divide things up a bit. And just lots of information and descriptions and questions that you have that you can answer that can help you in your page. Cool. Well, I think I am satisfied for now. Maybe I'll finish it off by writing the scientific name Ruz radicans in here. And I guess that's it. So I'm going to get out of here with 10 minutes to spare before Emily's presentation. But thank you guys for joining me, and I hope that during this time when you're spending a lot more time indoors, you get a chance to connect with some nature by taking a sketchbook outside and just sitting down and learning by drawing and observing and just making your own field guides, because anybody can do it. Sketching is a skill just like anything else, and it's for you. It's not for anybody else anyway. So anyway, thanks guys. I am planning on doing this again Thursday morning around 10 o'clock in the morning. So I hope to see some of you back there, and hey, stay safe. I guess here before we like leave, I'll show you my little friend over here. Oh, and I took the autofocus off, of course I did. So there's our little American kestrel who is stuck out of his cage right now because he's a jerk and he attacks people. Yeah, do not be fooled by that cute exterior. He's kind of a jerk. Cool. Any questions or comments or observations that you guys have before we get out of here? Nope. Cool. Well, I guess I should give you more time to actually do stuff. Boo, 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 boo. There's our friend. Any other questions? Cool. I will tell you a bit more about our plans for spring break while I have a few of you here. We are going to be doing more of these noon presentations every single weekday. We are planning on doing those. So we'll have material up that you can check out every day this week and hopefully next week too. Gosh, that bird. We're also going to be giving you guys some behind the scenes looks at animal enrichment. Our critters like this guy here are kind of stuck in the building and it's very quiet around here, so we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best to keep them engaged, and we'll get you guys engaged with us at the same time. And we do have some other fun stuff in store. We've got a virtual hike that Alicia did that we're going to have up this week, and some other stuff to keep you guys entertained and educated during this weird, unprecedented time. So yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me, and we'll see you again soon. All right. I'm gonna get out of here. Bye.